I'd like to welcome you on this crisp winter's morning to come sit with me by the fire with your cup of joe and let us embark on this second part of the Fir Tree. The tree only came to himself when he was unloaded in a courtyard with other trees, and heard a man say, "That one is splendid. We don't want the others." Then 2 servants came in rich livery and carried out the fir tree into a large and splendid drawing room. Portraits were hanging on the walls, and near the white porcelain stove stood 2 large Chinese vases with lions on the covers. There, too, were large, easy chairs, silken sofas, large tables full of picture books and full of toys worth hundreds and hundreds of crowns. At least the children said so. And the fir tree was stuck upright in a cask that was filled with sand. But no one could see that it was a cask, for green cloth was hung all around it. And it stood on a large, colorful colored carpet. Oh, how the tree quivered! What was to happen? The servants, as well as the young ladies, decorated it. On one branch there hung little nets cut out of colored paper, and each net was filled with sugar plums. And among the others both gilded apples and walnuts were suspended, looking as though they had grown there, and little blue and white tapers were placed among the leaves. Dolls that looked for all the world like men, the tree had never beheld such before, were seen among the foliage, and at the very top large star of golden tinsel was fixed. It was really splendid, beyond description splendid. "This evening," they all said, "how it will shine this evening." Oh, thought the tree, if the evening were but come, if the tapers were but lighted, and then I wonder what will happen. Perhaps the other trees from the forest will come to look at me. Perhaps the sparrows will beat against the window panes. I wonder if I shall take root here, and winter and summer stand covered with ornaments. He knew very much about the matter, but he was so impatient that for sheer longing he got a pain in his back. And this with trees is the same thing as a headache with us. The candles were now lighted. What brightness! What splendor! The tree trembled so in every bough that one of the tapers set fire to the foliage. It blazed up famously. "Help! Help!" cried the young ladies. They quickly put out the fire. Now the tree did not even dare tremble. What a state he was in! He was so uneasy lest he could lose something of his splendor, that he was quite bewildered amidst the glare and brightness, when suddenly both folding doors opened and a troop of children rushed in as if they were upset the tree. The older persons followed quietly. The little ones stood quite still, but it was only for a moment. Then they shouted that the whole place re-echoed with their rejoicing. They danced around the tree, and one present after the other was pulled off. A story," cried the children, drawing a little fat man towards the tree. He seated himself under it and said, "Now we are in the shade, and the tree can listen too. But I shall tell only one story. Now, which will you have? That about Ivedy-Avedy?" A story," cried the children, drawn at a little fat man towards the tree. He seated himself under it and said, "Now we are in the shade, and the tree can listen too. But I shall tell only one story. Now, which will you have? That about Ivedy-Avedy, or how about Humpty Dumpty, who tumbled down the stairs and yet after all came to the throne and married the princess?" "Ivedy-Avedy," cried some. "Humpty Dumpty," cried others. There was such a brawling and screaming, the fir tree alone was silent, and he thought to himself, "Am I not to brawl with the rest? Am I to do nothing whatever?" For he was one of the company, and had done what he had to do. And the man told about Humpty Dumpty that tumbled down, who notwithstanding came to the throne, and at last married the princess. And the children clapped their hands and cried, "Oh, go on, do go on." They wanted to hear about Ibbity too, but the little man only told them about Humpty Dumpty. The fir tree stood quite still and absorbed in thought. The birds in the woods had never related to the like of this. Humpty Dumpty fell down the stairs, and yet he married the princess. Yes, that's the way of the world, thought the fir tree, and believed it all because the man who told the story was so good-looking. Well, who knows, perhaps I may fall down the stairs too and get a princess as a wife. And he looked forward with joy to the morrow, when he hoped to be decked out again with lights and playthings, fruits and tinsel. I won't tremble till the morrow, thought the fir tree. I will enjoy to the full all my splendor. Tomorrow I shall hear again the story of Humpty Dumpty, and perhaps that of Ibbity too. And the whole night the tree stood there, still and in deep thought. In the morning the servant and the housemaid came in. Now then, the splendor will begin again, thought the fir. But they dragged him out of the room and up the stairs into the loft. And here, in a dark corner, where no daylight could enter, they left him. What's the meaning of this? Thought the tree. What am I to do here? What shall I hear now? I wonder. And he leaned against the wall, lost in fear. Time enough had he, too, for his reflections, for days and nights passed on, and nobody came up. And when at last somebody did come, it was only to put some great trunks in a corner, out of the way. There stood the tree, quite hidden. It seemed as if he had been entirely forgotten. Well, thank you all for joining us around this fire. Tune in for part 3, where we finish off with this lovely tale with the fir tree. I'm Chad Rockwell, and I'll see you on your next